Let me see.
All right. This is going to be like a learning experience for me too, since this is like the first in-person guest. All right. Hey, fun girls. It's Jasmine here. Today, I have my best friend, Casey.
Hi.
She is a business owner, an entrepreneur, and just all-around boss girl. We have known each other for quite some time now, since about middle school. We've always been really good friends, and one of the things that we've always bonded over was our drive and commitment to our goals and the things that we wanted to do in life.
Dreamers.
Yes, we were very ambitious, very goal-oriented, and so we were just two like-minded girls that it just made it so much easier to connect. And as time went on, we just got closer and closer with one another. So that's my introduction to one of my favorite people ever.
And to give a little background on us, when we were like, 15 or 16? Yeah. We just went to New York City. We took a bus and just went, 2.5 hours to New York City, just alone by ourselves, just explored the Big Apple, you know. So that's us.
Yeah, that is just a bunch of things that we've done. She is basically the creative person behind the photos and things that you see, you know, promotion-wise for this podcast. So she is just all around great. Do you want to say anything about yourself that you want them to know?
I'm excited to be here. I feel like I've kind of watched Jasmine, like, from the beginning of being like, I have this idea, I'm gonna start this podcast, this is what I want to do, to like watching her just build the vision and the brand, and then actually seeing her do it and like be listed on Spotify. Like, are you kidding me? You even had a Spotify Wrapped for Fun Girl podcast, so I thought that was incredible. And I just recently took like a little vacation and I downloaded her podcast and like listened to her episodes while I was on the plane, and it was a good experience. So I'm just excited to finally be here and just be a part of this incredible thing you're doing.
Well, we are so excited to have her. So since Christmas is in literally about like almost 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks basically at this point, we decided we wanted to make this episode one where we're talking about what we're going to get into, which I'll say in a moment. But we also thought it would be really great to bake cookies while we did it.
And we love cookies. So.
Yes. So we're going to be making chocolate chips and snickerdoodles. And Casey here is the expert baker.
I wouldn't go that far.
Compared to me, I have never baked anything myself. So this will be my first time ever like starting from scratch and doing what I'm doing. So that is the theme for this one. Basically what we're going to get into discussing though is talking about adulting. We are both the same age. We both graduated in 2020. So we were those fortunate kids that, you know, barely got a semi-graduation and missed out on a lot of key aspects of, you know, the beginning of your adult life. And now we're both kind of in a phase where we're transitioning into that post-college and real adult phase that, I don't know, I feel a little bit stunted sometimes.
I feel like because of the pandemic, we kind of got like dropped off and like had no guidance, like no direction, just everything kind of just spun around.
Nothing about our adult life so far has been traditional whatsoever,
or what we thought we would do.
So it's kind of like we're going to be talking about navigating adulthood without having those experiences that we should have had, and then also just like what it's like trying to adult and figure it out, you know. So that's what we're going to be getting into. If you are listening to this without the video, I'm sorry. I hope you can still follow along as we're trying to bake these cookies and
just hear us struggle.
So let's see. Printed out directions here because, like I said, I've never baked anything, and
Directions are good though.
yeah, they are.
Good.
They never hurt anyone.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
anyways, one thing about Casey is that she actually just graduated college. So she's really getting into that adult phase of, getting into the working class.
Mhm.
And now she's about to see what it's like to be, like, essentially a corporate girl.
Yeah. A corporate girly. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I officially start my new job, my real job, in about a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so that will be different. I don't really know what to expect. So we will see how it goes. But one good thing about COVID is that it has kind of trained everyone that it's okay to work from home and have like a hybrid job.
Yeah.
And that's what this position would be. So I would be a corporate girly like 2 days a week, but the rest I would be working from home, which is super nice. So that's
Living
like,
your best life.
yeah, that's like the one positive I'll give the pandemic. But yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yeah. I feel like there is a big divide on people getting comfortable working from home,
Mhm.
but also some people really want to get back to being in person and connecting with other people.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
and us being the primary people affected by this whole post-COVID. Oh, yeah, that if I had it that a few seconds ago would have been great. But yeah, being in that group that was primarily affected and not really sure what it's like to go to college and actually be in person. Our high school graduation, I guess if you want to say lucky, we were lucky enough to have a sort of like fake graduation. So
I hope that's
oh,
the camera.
good. Yeah, we were, I guess if you want to call it, fortunate enough to have a fake graduation. They basically had us come one by one to the school, walk across the stage. You could have 4 family members, and you only got to take your mask off when you were walking across the stage, and that was it.
Joke.
It was.
A joke.
Yeah.
It was just humiliating that they did that to us.
It was. And then, right after that, we had the summer where I personally didn't really see anyone
Mm-mm.
that I knew. I didn't get to see any of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not really connecting with a bunch of people besides, when I was going to work, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So right after high school, where we basically didn't go for like, how many months was it? It was like from March to June or May when we graduated?
Yeah, it started I think in March. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yeah, so what is that? March, April, May. 3-ish months you didn't go to school.
And we had no idea
No.
that we would never go back.
Yes. So that was a very confusing time, and you're just rolling with it.
Yeah.
My next experience seeing anyone, really, was when I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
So I went away for my freshman year. I went to a school in Manhattan, and that was a sucky experience because as someone who really loves New York and always tried to travel there as much as I possibly could, I thought it was going to be so great. But New York had these really strict COVID rules, and I don't know. I got to the campus, and I did not know that I was going to have to quarantine before I could assimilate onto the actual school.
Mm-hmm.
So 14 days, you're isolated away in a dorm. I had a roommate, but I don't know. It was a very, very hard time to get through.
Yeah.
They had very strict rules in New York, so even my family couldn't visit me without there being an issue. Yeah, even my family couldn't really visit me. I couldn't leave the state of New York without having to quarantine again for 14 days.
That's crazy. Because you're not even from New York, so it's like, yeah.
So it really sucked. I was kind of stuck there, and I did have some visitors about once or twice that made it easier for me to get through that time. But it was really hard.
Yeah.
So my dreams were kind of like crushed. I thought I was going to get there and live my best Pinterest life, and it just wasn't that at all.
Yeah, it was like, boy, were we wrong. Yeah.
And for you, I know you had even a worse experience than me that freshman year.
Yeah, I was initially going to State University, which is across the country from us. So that was, that was something initially, like you remember, like senior year, even junior year, I was like, I'm going to Washington State. I'm going to move there. I'm going to live there. That's where I'm going to be. I had my heart set on that, or so I thought at the time. But then when COVID happened, obviously, like she said, everything went online. And so it kind of just changed everything. And I actually physically go to the campus. They shut it down to all out-of-state residents. And so only in-state residents were able to move into the dorms. And so then by the time, I think that lasted, the first semester or 2 semesters, where it was like pandemic shutdown at colleges?
I feel like that whole first year, it really depended on the school that you were going to. But whereas mine did let people come in person, they had the option of letting you do online if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And for yours, it seemed as though out of state, you had no choice.
Yeah. So that was how it was in the beginning. It was like you had to do online. And so that's what I did. And then it came to like the middle of the year where they were like, okay, if you want to move in the dorm, you have to submit the request. And I was starting to kind of get the feeling of doing everything online, but I was also kind of understanding the college a little bit more. So I started to finally get the feeling of what Washington State was like, Washington State University, while I was doing the online classes, and I started to realize it wasn't really for me. And I was also getting a lot more into my own personal business where I offered photography and like graphic design and branding. And so I realized I couldn't go out there and that if I wanted to launch my business, because I already had started building those connections where we were, and it would just kind of set me back with the growth that I wanted to see right away. So ultimately, I did decide to do that whole first year online. And then I eventually transferred to Southern New Hampshire University. Shout out to SNHU, because I did the last of my bachelor's program with them online, and it was a great experience. I was able to have that adult life, run a business, have a personal life, and still go to school, which, as we'll talk about, it's not traditional what we did at our age, especially. Like, nobody was doing what we were doing. So that was different, and there were things that we didn't know ahead of time getting into it, of kind of what it would be like and what we thought online school would be like and what we thought experiences we would get out of it. So we kind of really had to build that on our own. But I will say I definitely don't regret going that route, because I think if I did go to Washington State, I would have been a completely different person, and I wouldn't have accomplished the things I've done. I wouldn't have seen the things I've done and just lived the life that I've lived so far. So yeah, I am really proud of that, but it definitely was different, and it definitely took adjustment to get there, for sure.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing about myself. I did that first year in Manhattan at the school that I was going to, and then because it was so isolating because of the COVID restrictions, it made it really difficult, and it changed my whole opinion of what I thought I wanted and what I envisioned I was getting out of this experience. When you decide to go away for college, it's for a few different reasons, So you might just want to branch out, see new things in life, and, etc.
Yeah.
But there are other considerations. So I didn't actually expect to never get to see my family. And at the time for me, that was it made a big difference.
It was hard.
It was really hard for me. And so I was just kind of like, you know what? This doesn't matter so much as my happiness does.
Yeah.
And if I stay here, then I will basically go insane.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be so depressed. And it's
ultimately you have to choose what's best for you, even if that path doesn't look the same for everyone else, which was a tough lesson I think we both learned. And that still, even though we chose the path that we would be happier on, of course there were still periods where we're sitting back and we're like, you know, our life really does look different to other people's, and you know, we're not doing the same thing, like living the same experience everyone else is getting. So like I would say, you know, for me at least, there's definitely times where I would compare and I would be like, you know, man, like, you know, that does look fun, but then when I sit back and realize like, but wait, like look at what we're doing and look how far ahead we are, you know, because of what we've done.
Yeah, especially you, because if you want to get technical, when you started your photography, you were as young as you were already ahead of the game. But then when you decided to actually full out go for it and say, you know what?
This is what I'm
what I'm doing with my life. I'm doing this full time.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to get out of it.
Yeah.
And then even more so when we'll eventually get into you deciding to actually venture into another business as well. With me, I did decide to finish my second semester of freshman year online, and it was hard because I did make connections in New York, but it was hard to choose between those connections and the ones that I was so familiar with and, you know, gave me comfort despite everything. So I was like going into that spring semester, the intention of, you know, this is okay. Next year's going to be better. I'm going to go back to New York and it'll be great. Yeah. But then as time started to get closer and closer, I was like, it's not what you want to do. It's not what I want to do anymore. And it was a hard pill to swallow. And I really remember having a hard time telling my New York friends because they were looking forward to me coming back. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't. But yeah, so basically for me, what it just comes down to is when I ultimately decided that I wasn't going back to Manhattan to be an in-person student, it felt really weird. I was in this place where I'm like, I don't know, I really want to be that girl that does do the whole in-person thing and gets all the experiences you're supposed to get. And it was like, what life am I choosing? I ultimately chose the one that served me best for what I needed at the time, and I guess it still ultimately worked in my favor. Man, I really made this decision to just do online college. I never pictured that for myself, but it goes to show just how much things change when you actually do become an adult and you get to learn more about yourself a little bit. And I just realized, okay, I don't want this. I can't do this. I mean, I could have if I had other things going on in my life. But some factors just came into play. Even outside of that, I had to make a choice at 19 that most people I don't know, or most people I know haven't had to, that I had to get my own place.
You had to grow up really fast.
I did have to grow up fast, and I don't regret getting my own place. I feel like it was beneficial for me because I do know a lot of people who are way older than me, and not in a judgmental way. They still live with family and they're comfortable living there. Unfortunately, I just wasn't able to have that life where my home situation was comfortable. I didn't really have a place to go back to, and so I had to make this tough choice to decide to be a working student. Get my own place and just do school online, and you know, it was what it was. And I did make connections with people for ultimately where I decided to live,
Mm-hmm.
where I decided to work, that now I can say I consider really good friends of mine, even best friends. So I'm really grateful for the unexpectedness and that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I just don't regret it. Do you feel like you have any regrets on that front?
Not at all. Yeah. I think, I mean, maybe one regret is to not like go around telling everyone like I'm gonna be in Washington State back in those days, because clearly I choose a different direction, but that would be the only thing. It's not really a regret. It's just like I chose to make life a little bit different. But yeah, I don't regret at all like how things turned out. I think it actually like it taught us more in a way, because of the things we had to figure out on our own and things we had to figure out in a different way than others, where like at most universities you're kind of handed a lot of stuff. Online college is not like that. You're not handed all the resources and all the connections. You have to go out there and make them for yourself. And that was the hardest part, but also the part that kind of taught us how to make a name for ourselves and how to go after what we want, even if there are barriers in the way. But yeah, no, I definitely don't regret anything.
No, definitely. And I feel like I lied a little bit. I do have a little bit of FOMO. I have those thoughts that are like, well, I wonder what my life could have been. Or imagine if I did stay in New York and do this, or stay at that college.
Yeah.
And, I look at some of the people that I connected with and I see what they're doing, and it just makes you wonder. But I'm also at this point where I have to truly acknowledge that I am not like everyone else. I'm not living the same scenarios that they are. And so I have to face my life and say, okay, this is the bones that I live in. And it is what it is. And that's okay. I really wanted to try and prove something to people I knew. Like you said, it was a little bit of making announcements like, oh, this is what I'm doing with my life. I want all these people to see. And I don't know, like, I guess you can't take those things back. Like, it could have been worse. You could have been more obnoxious about it. But because for years that's what I thought I was going to do for myself. It's like, oh, well, now that I'm not, what if people notice? Or, like, what might people say? And really, another thing about being an adult is just facing the fact that people are going to always look. They're always going to spectate. And you have to be comfortable with the choices that you make because you live in them. And I just kind of faced the fact that, you know what? I'm fine with this. I'm fine with what I have going, because one thing I wouldn't have been able to do had I stayed and done college traditionally like most people. I wouldn't have been able to follow my acting career. That was always something I was also really passionate about. And in fact, because of college, I had to stop going to acting school. And it was okay because, I was taking this next step in my life that I thought I needed to do. And maybe just for the experience to say I did it, to see that I, ultimately wanted something else with my life. I'm okay with it. But it's like you said, not doing the traditional in-person, living on campus way of going about college. It gave me the freedom to have a full-time job. I was able to buy myself a car.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. I was able to finish acting school and get signed with an agency. I was able to have time, which I still do this currently, to follow all of my passions. I have time to podcast. I have time to film projects. I have time to hang out with my friends the same way college students do. And it's all great.
It's like all coming together in a way that at the time we didn't see possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And, it gets a little hard when even sometimes your family isn't so supportive.
Yeah.
My family was not everyone, shall I say, but some of the more important figures in my life didn't like that I chose not to go.
Yeah.
Or that I chose to stay and do things a different way. And it made it hard because you care about those people, you do care about their opinions. It does make you wonder if you're making mistakes. And I had to confidently live with my choices, and those people eventually got over it. I feel like that's a hard part of adulting, is also kind of facing the fact that people are going to have to get used to you being different.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not this kid anymore that they can tell what to do. They don't get to influence your choices. They get to have an opinion, I guess, if they so choose to exercise it or tell you.
Yeah.
But it's really doesn't matter as much as it does when you're a kid and you have to listen.
Yeah, like when initially, I would say not everyone in my family didn't support my choices, but they all kind of had their flags raised because they were like, whoa, like this isn't what we talked about, and that was hard because it's like you're battling with your closest people who you think and whose opinion does matter to you, but you're also battling with yourself and what you think is right for you. And it's kind of that thing where it takes time for people, like you said, for them to finally come around and realize, oh, like, she is doing good. Like, things did work out. Like, it's just that doubt that is understandable that people have. But yeah, like, in the beginning, I would have constant arguments, with my family of, like, yes, like, I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for anyone else. And this is something that I want to do. But in the beginning, no one was sure. And so it's taken until now, I will say, until I've graduated, for them to be like, damn, like, she did that. She graduated in 3 years. She is doing that. Like, that's how I feel. Like, it definitely took a lot of time. And even, behind our backs, we could always tell that
there was some judgment.
Yeah, even our family or friends, there's always someone that was like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, that was hard, especially when you're trying to grow up. You're trying to become an adult and learn things on your own. It takes a little bit of standing up for yourself and just going against the grain to...
For sure. It was, for me, my family literally not believing that I was actually in school.
Yeah.
And it's so absurd because, by the time we started doing college online... For me, 2021, and that's basically the year that you decided to make that switch too.
Yeah, it's 2021.
When I made that switch, it's like people have been doing school online for years.
Yeah, it just was never talked about or advertised.
Yeah. So I'm like, this is a real thing. People actually do this. It's not crazy. It's not so absurd.
Yeah.
And I just could not understand why people were not being supportive.
Yeah.
And now, it is important for the people in your life to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
If you are making mistakes and to try and help guide you, because when you're 18, 19, you don't know everything.
No, absolutely not.
And you are going to make some choices that you might regret. But it's also important for people to hear you out. I feel like when you're a good kid and you decide to, make a decision for yourself, it kind of shakes the tide a little bit.
Yeah.
People are just like, what?
Yeah.
I can't believe you're doing this.
Yeah.
Or you're being influenced by this person.
Exactly,
and that's just not the case. It's just, I'm changing. I'm growing as a person.
Exactly. It's the best way to put it, that we're changing and that we're finally, like, standing on our own 2 feet. And that's what scares people.
Yeah. And so that's one thing that I guess as you start to navigate your adulthood is almost inevitable.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you have the absolute most supportive or enabling family, then you will face those times where things are not so easy.
There's no other way than that.
Yeah. And, you know, on that note, it's kind of like with me having my own place and everything. There is no turning back for me. I have to work. I have to get things done because I have no other way to turn if I kind of fail. So it's even almost like this. Some people rise to the occasions presented to them, and some people don't. And what I've learned about myself through this whole process is I'm someone who is able to always adapt.
Yeah.
And doing things in a non-traditional way, having, you know, my adulthood be so unconventional, and all of it has just kind of shown me I'm always gonna do what I need to do, and I'm always gonna make it happen for myself.
You're always gonna get everything done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Even if I don't always feel so great about how much I got done.
At least you did it.
Yeah, at least I did it. So, yeah, I think that's one of my key takeaways from all of this. But that's not to say that it's not still scary, it's not still hard. Sometimes I'm just like actually scared shitless that I'm not doing things right.
Yeah.
Or I do still get overwhelmed by how hard it is to make it, and the consistency that goes into being a student, being an adult, especially
having responsibilities, having bills.
Yes. Especially when you don't have a safety net to fall onto. It can be pretty overwhelming. But there are things that you have to do.
Make it work.
Get it done,
Yeah. And that's something like I've been watching you do, and like I know you'll tell me like, you know, when you're concerned or like, you know, things get overwhelming, but you do everything with such grace, honestly. Watching you go through all of it and just, again, being a full student, a full-time employee, a full-time person working on your dreams, literally going out on the weekends or even weekdays to film for short movies and then go back to work and pay your bills. Seriously, watching you do everything, make a podcast, get all of that done in a week. Seriously, your status is unmatched. It's unmatched.
And it's the same for this girl. She ran a photography business. She ran a food business. Also while being a student as well, and having other responsibilities, trying to help other people out. It's a lot. And then on top of it, one of the beauties of doing school the way that you did it is that you got to finish so early. You get to start your life a little bit sooner, and some people don't like that, and it's, you know, definitely a personal preference, but I love that for you. I just know one of the most exciting parts of adulthood is actually feeling like you're getting there.
And like up until this point, I've really felt like I'm almost there. I'm so close, but I'm not as independent as I want to be yet. And so now that I've officially, you know, finally got the piece of paper and and finally like landed a job, which interviewing was difficult. Don't ever let someone tell you that, oh, it's easy. No, if you're interviewing for a job, kudos to you, because it is a process and you have to be patient.
Scary.
It's terrifying because you're kind of like, everything's on the line to make sure that, especially out in this economy, that you're making enough money, that you have benefits. How many people even have benefits today? Even just that thought, even your student loan debt. The things that we've had to do to ensure that our student loan debt is lower than everyone else is absurd too.
I know.
The things that we've been doing, I just think it's different.
For me, one of my motivations for working where I did was because they offered me school benefits, and that definitely helps.
Oh yeah.
It's some jobs, they do offer 100% towards your tuition, which is really great for those people.
Yeah.
And other jobs, like, well, with mine, it was my specific major that they didn't cover 100%, but it's still awesome that they pay a percentage of that.
It's incredible.
My tuition will be less than what it was expected to be. And sure, you're giving up certain things, the recommendations or certain opportunities, but on the flip side, you are getting something else, and that's also great because when I do get my piece of paper and I finish, it'll still be stressful to have to pay student loans, no doubt.
Yeah.
But
It'll be way less.
Yes.
We're not looking at 90,000 in debt. We're looking at maybe 15. Like that's nothing in compared to what it is and how much we could be in by making that choice to transfer schools and to go that route to be able to have some debt relief, like I think we did it smart, honestly.
Yeah. It's no joke, but again, this is not even to try and influence anyone to do things a certain way. It's just for you personally, you have to decide what works best for you.
Yeah.
Situations change, your vision for yourself changes. But I will say, ultimately, no matter where I went to school, no matter where I live, no matter what, my motivation has always, always remained the same.
Yeah.
I still have the same intentions and goals for my life.
Yeah.
For the most part. I just love that. I think one of the most hard, challenging, and confusing parts of adulthood also is learning how to feel confident in your choices.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, because there's always doubt. There's always comparison. Especially with social media today, it's so easy to fall into that trap of, like, what do they have going on? And then you just have to realize, wait, like, look in the mirror. Be confident in your choice because you are happy and you did grow. It didn't change us, but we did grow from it.
Right. And I won't lie, there's still times where I do that, where, it'll be spring break, and I'm seeing other,
Those are the worst. I think they're really the worst.
And it is really hard. Sometimes it can be defeating. But we all compare ourselves one way or another. Someone could be comparing themselves to us, what they see, what we're doing, and wondering how we do it. And we're doing the same for them sometimes. So it's just like, you have to, again, reflect on what matters most to you, what's working for you. And for me, though, there are some experiences that I wish I could have had being in a traditional college, but I'm also okay with not having those and just making do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When you finally cross the finish line and you get to see or get to pat yourself on the back a little bit and say, wow, I actually did it. It did mean something. And that's something that makes me so happy for you. And, just even admiring you as a businesswoman as well. You are in a better position than most people that I do know also. Kind of crazy to think about the chances that you have to find and make for yourself sometimes are almost, if not better, they're just almost as good if you work hard enough for it.
Yeah, like for me, I've been the type of person, mind you, I started my business, or freelancing, I'll say, at the age of 16. And that was with photography. I was selling my little photo prints in a coffee shop. Shout out to Cafe on the Bay as well. And I was also doing commercial photography gigs for restaurants that my mom had bartended at. So if she hadn't had that job, I wouldn't have had that connection to a business owner to hire a 16-year-old to take photos for their business. And that, like, it's so weird thinking about it now because back then I really felt like, I don't know, I had to work really hard and things weren't always there for me, but it just, I don't know, the way I looked at it then was so different than now. Now I look at it like everything happened for a reason. And if those things didn't happen, the things that I had gone through, I wouldn't be where I'm at today and I wouldn't have been able to accomplish the things I've accomplished. But I've always been the type of person who goes from to achievement. If I say in school, say I get honor roll, then as soon as I get honor roll for one marking period, then I'm like, okay, I need to get honor roll the next one. I don't even stop to be like, oh wow, like, cool, I did that. Congratulations to me. I never did that. And so for years, I just would keep breezing by, just trying to make something of myself, but I wouldn't stop to be like, oh wow, like you're doing great, you're doing awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So that was different. And so to actually graduate, I did feel it. I felt so proud, and I really felt like I worked for it and I earned it. And it really made all of the little things that I hustled through high school and middle school for, it just made it worth it. You know, like we always talk about it, like the types of people that we were in high school were not who our friends were. We didn't go to the parties. We didn't spend our weekends out doing this and doing that. We were different. And that's just who we were. It's just what we enjoyed to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the time, we felt like something was wrong with us.
Yeah.
You know, we felt like, why are we not fitting in here? Like, why does it feel like we're trying so hard to be someone we're not? But now, like, looking at us, like, we're doing pretty awesome. I think, like, I don't know, I think it's just built us into who we are, and it's made us so aware of ourselves, of what we want, and especially of what we don't want, but that's okay.
Definitely, I will say that is like the basis, one of the bases that I had for making Fun Girl Podcast.
Yeah.
Because I spent years wondering and maybe posing a little bit, trying to force myself to enjoy parties and stuff like that, and that's just kind of led to, you know, a difference of opinion and other things that you can't control. Some people are into that. Most people our age are because they're able to focus on those things, or that's just who they are.
And that's fine if you are that person, but it's okay if you're not that person.
Exactly. And that is what we're trying to get out of this conversation here, is to just say, hey, we did adulting in a completely different manner than some of the people our age typically do. You know, 22 years old, it's all a blur sometimes. It's just parties, school, and whatever else you do. And for us, it just didn't look like that. But if any of you can relate to that, even in the slightest, it hopefully makes a difference to know that there are other people that are like you, and you can be successful. You can get compliments. And I will say one thing for myself, I never give myself enough credit, and I'm trying to do better by that. I definitely am. I've had so many people tell me that they admire me, what I have going on, and I'm just like, wow, you actually do?
It just kind of goes over your head at first, right? When you get a compliment, you don't actually take the time to be like, wait, like, you're right. Like,
you don't recognize that there are people that are actually admiring what you have going on, because you're so focused on your doubt with it that it's just like, I didn't know. You know? And that has been one of the things that recently I've just started to actually acknowledge, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, like, look at us. Our 16-year-old selves running through New York, I think, would be proud. I think they would be shocked because of what we've been doing, but I do think that they would be proud of who we've become and just what we've done despite all the challenges.
Yes, definitely. Like with me, I've taken so many trips to New York. I've done things that I've always tried to be outside of the box as is, even from like high school age. But I know that that girl would be so amazed at what I have going on, and I'm just trying to honor myself in that way, give myself more credit, because if it weren't for her, I wouldn't be me. And it's the same for you. So I really am just so grateful for that dreamer in me. And, you know, even if you're one of those people that you don't really have it figured out, you don't really know what you want to do, you feel a little lost and confused, and the people in your life aren't making it easier for you to understand, it's okay. There's time. One thing that I've had to take away from my circumstances changing is I've put a timeline on success and accomplishing goals, and that's not really necessary. It's not
Yeah.
definitive.
Mhm.
You know, there is no set time
Mhm.
for you to be, you know, accomplished.
Yeah.
I have a set graduation date in mind, and it is not really going to happen anymore. But I'm like, now I don't know why I was doing that.
Like, you don't need a set date. The fact is that
don't.
you're doing it. Yeah, but like what you're saying, like it's okay to not have it figured out, and you could still have ambition for something that you're not even sure about.
Yeah.
But as long as you're showing up every day for yourself and trying, like, you'll
That's
make it
all
far.
you can do.
Yeah, like
The cookies, these are pre-baked. I have snickerdoodle. I have snickerdoodle here.
and chocolate chip.
So we're gonna put these in the oven and let them bake. So, we are about to close this episode out. I will try my best to show the video subscribers the cookies.
Editor's note popping in. I had the ending cut off of that video, so I just wanted to say that that was pretty much it, and I would see you guys in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this one, and thank you for listening.